Thor Ragnarok is the most disappointing movie in the Marvel Studios canon. I didn't say it's the worst. It's the most disappointing.
Wake up! Wake up, wake up, wake up! Up you wake, up you wake, up you wake, up you wake!
With 16 films under its belt, the Marvel Cinematic Universe has established itself as the go-to superhero film franchise for moviegoers and fans alike. Although some of its films seem to take on the same formulaic structure, the MCU stands above all others as the king of the superhero genre. That being said, with its newest film, Thor Ragnarok, it feels as if the franchise has taken a mighty step backwards. Thor 3 Ragnarok Thor, the third movie in 3D IMAX, feels like a cartoon, not an extravagant superhero spectacle film. I was extremely disappointed because I was not a huge fan of the last two Thor movies. The first one is quite passable, but is not without its flaws, and the second film is regarded as the worst film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
When I heard that Taika Waititi was directing this movie, I was excited.
That's right, Taika Waititi, the same guy who starred in the cinematic classic Green Lantern.
Now pay attention. Green! Wow. I know, right?
Hunt for the Wilder People was one of my favorite films of 2016. What I didn't know at the time was that this talented director would make one of the most tonally inconsistent, poorly paced, visually flat, compositionally ugly, and emotionally empty movies of the year. I think at most I might have giggled twice, and the crowd of people that were with me in the theater were relatively quiet. Just based off of the film that we got, I wouldn't be surprised if stories of studio meddling with the film come to light. But then again, the true horror would be if he had final cut and this is what we got.
The pacing felt really off. The first act barely took time to set up the story and new characters, and then the second and third act were completely rushed. It seemed like the movie wanted to be over as soon as it started, and every scene was cut extremely quickly with no time to digest exactly what was happening. Sorry we can't stay in the scene for longer than 1 minute. We gotta move on to Infinity War.
To say that this movie suffers from tone problems would be an understatement. And I'm not just talking about how a scene will go from semi-dramatic to comedic instantly. I don't know how to explain objectively what tonal dissonance looks like, but
it's like child porn. You'll know it when you see it.
And some of you might have thought that joke was extremely inappropriate, wildly out of place, and not in keeping with the tone of what we were going for at all in this video, but I guess that's just your opinion. I'm talking about how certain plot points would be introduced as serious and life-altering, and then the stakes that this situation could potentially have would just be deflated for a joke. Seeing as how extremely vague my previous statement was, I'm gonna go into spoiler territory, so click on this point in the video if you haven't seen the film yet. But if you have seen it, or you don't care, just be my guest and listen. You've been warned. Okay, so in the middle of the movie, the Hulk becomes Bruce Banner for the first time in 2 years. He says that it didn't feel like he was sharing his body with the Hulk, that the Hulk was in control the whole time. He even says, and I quote, "If I turn into the Hulk again, I don't think Bruce Banner will ever come back." So with that in mind, you'd have to think that if he was going to risk becoming the Hulk again and potentially lose agency over his mind and body, that his reason for doing so would have to be worth taking such a risk for. Well, if you thought that way, you'd be wrong, because he turned into the Hulk to take on a giant wolf that Valkyrie or Heimdall or someone could have taken on in a seemingly intelligent way. You know, maybe Valkyrie could have broke the bridge in half with that giant-ass gun in the ship, or maybe Heimdall could have done something in that vein because he knows that area of Asgard better than anyone. Something? Anything? Anyway, Bruce becomes the Hulk to help these Asgardian Randys and to show Valkyrie that he was the Hulk the whole time, because they made this running joke, "Oh, I know you from somewhere." Like, whatever. This is played to be dramatic, which really came out of nowhere, and then he jumps out of the ship and falls right on his face. A few chuckles scattered throughout the theater I was in, and that's all that amounted to the Hulk's character arc. I guess that was really worth not being able to be himself anymore, even though he could have just said, "By the way, I'm the Hulk." The whole time Bruce Banner wanted to go back to Earth. He didn't even care about Asgard. He even says in the movie that Thor doesn't even care about him. Thor makes a joke or something, but that's never really resolved from what I remember. And if that did happen, that says a lot more about the film's staying power than it does about me.
Speaking of character assassination, a big thing that I was really upset about was the treatment of each and every character. No matter who it was, they were absolutely wasted.
Two-time Oscar winner Cate Blanchett?
Wasted.
Tom Hiddleston, the actor who we haven't seen in full force in this series since 2013?
Wasted.
Tessa Thompson, aka one of the best parts of Ryan Coogler's Creed, hashtag Black Panther so lit.
Hashtag wasted. Hashtag Black Panther so lit.
Don't freeze.
I never freeze.
Judge Dredd,
Wasted.
three-time Oscar nominee Mark Ruffalo,
Wasted.
Taika Waititi as Korg,
Wasted.
Taika Waititi as director of this movie.
Wasted. You get the point. The film tried to give backstory and emotional weight to its characters, but if you were to blink, you would miss it. Nobody is fleshed out. Everyone is here just because, and it got really annoying to see that this is how the writers and director decided to do this. For example, the arc for the character the Executioner was just so telegraphed, and the conclusion to his arc falls so flat. I left Thor 3 Ragnarok feeling meh, when I should have loved it. The superhero genre is my favorite genre of film after all, but after this and other 2017 superhero films not living up to expectations, I feel like none of them have that special quality anymore. They are made just to be made. Hopefully next year things are different for the MCU, but until then, I guess we will have to take what we can get.
Aww, you're getting superhero fatigue like me.
Does that mean we should kiss, or...
Well, that was cute. Exactly.